So, Nick, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing. I mean, you're working in this crazy time with a pandemic. What have you been doing?
Well, it's been an interesting year as as many people have experienced. And so I'm a Canadian actor who spends a lot of time in LA, and I usually spend the winters there. So I was there, I guess it was from sort of mid-January of this earlier this year. For some reason, it feels like decades ago. Uh, and so when everything kind of, hit the fan, so to speak, I was there in Los Angeles, and my home is in Toronto. A lot of people were saying, get back to Canada. Who knows what's going to happen? As we know, everything was very, there was a lot of uncertainty at the beginning. So I had a lot of, hesitance of, what should I do? Should I stay? Should I go back to Canada, where it's really cold? I decided to stay at the time, just because I had a place there, and I what I do when I'm away from here is I rent my place out. So there were people staying here anyway, and I didn't want to displace them any more than myself. So, I stayed and was, I'm happy I did that, because I love being in California. It's certainly, during March and April, when things were very, locked down, being in a warm climate was much more palatable for me. Eventually I did come back in the summer. Work, of course, kind of ended, as it did for all of us. And, it just kind of made sense to come back to Canada. There was a certain, there's only so much time I can be in California when I'm not working. It's certainly more expensive. And, I thought, let me come back for the summer. And, as things started to kind of open up a little bit here and there, the possibilities seem to be better in Canada than the US. All the while, I'm developing some projects as a producer as well, with, various partners that I've worked with in the past. Because, in this day and age, it's important to have projects that you create yourself,
Exactly. Yeah.
So kind of, it's a bit of both. I've been auditioning for a lot of different things, everything from commercial to, series regulars and various things like that. And, actually shot a commercial this summer, which was nice. Or no, I guess this fall. And, it's been a challenge, because, I don't think I've gone this long without working, quite frankly. It was a real interesting experience in that sense. I've been doing this for 25 years, and, so finding ways of keeping yourself engaged, keeping yourself focused, whether it's doing yoga and doing little workouts in the kitchen, whether it was, going for walks, whether it was, having Zoom conversations with people. I did a Zoom acting class at one point,
Oh,
which
wow.
was really fun. It was an improv class that I did. And, it was something that I hadn't done in many, many, many years, doing improv. It's not something that I'm not like a improv comedian or anything like that, but, doing improv can be very useful for, even if you're just working in film and television, just having that background, having the, ability to kind of adjust to different scenarios. If something goes wrong, or, if they just leave the camera rolling and they want to keep going, what's going to happen? And just, having a general ability to just be in the moment and to listen. And I find that improv is really good for that. And I was a bit hesitant, initially. Um, uh, the what is it going to be like to be on to do it on Zoom versus doing it in person, and it was really great. I have to say, it was an adjustment, but it was something that I really looked forward to every week. It was because that was during the time when things were very, there was hardly anything open. We weren't doing much. We were still uncertain about how, now I think there's like a little more, even though the numbers are higher, I think there's a sense of like, we can control it if we wear our masks and if we social distance and if we act in a responsible way, we can still kind of have a bit of a life. And it so it was something that was really great. I learned a lot. I had a great time, and was I've made friends that I can continue on with, which is really lovely. And so those are, just having that kind of outlet is really important, for just because it's such a unique time. And even though, like, for instance, I do a lot of my auditions, or actually all of my auditions, I've only had one in-person audition this year, and that was during the summertime. And it was very, it was a big room and everybody was very well social distance and whatnot. So I set myself up with, I have to do self tapes, so, and that's kind of like this whole new world that everybody's dealing with. I've been doing self tapes for a few years, but I really had to up my game. You know what I mean? I got better lights, and I actually use my iPhone, which is great. It does a really nice job. But learning, like, I tested out different sound, different microphones and things, and finding ways of making it more, just a better quality tape, because I couldn't have people with me auditioning, right? I couldn't bring someone into the house and read opposite me like they would in an audition. So we would do it over FaceTime, right?
I
So I'd
love
have,
it. Yeah.
yeah, so I'd have, just like we're talking now, I would have the laptop behind the camera, and a person would be on FaceTime, and I would send them the sides, and they would just read opposite me. I'd frame myself and then press record and line myself up in the frame, and then we'd do the scene. And and it works fine. It works great. I've booked a couple jobs doing that. And so yeah, just keeping that focus has been challenging. I love to travel, haven't been able to do that. Been doing various projects at home, working on the house, renovating, things like that, home renovation type projects that I'm sure a lot of people are doing. I've been cooking a lot, certainly upped my cooking game. And and you kind of go through ups and downs, like, there's points where you're really productive, and you're doing yoga every morning or working out in the afternoon or whatever it is. And then I've gone through phases where I'm just like done with it, and I'm watching TV, eating popcorn, and sleeping in, and I find, like, you have to give yourself that pass, you know what I mean? And say, like,
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
like, I think there's a sense that we feel like we have to be productive. Here we are, we have all the time in the world. What better time to take on a new project, read a book, do improve your physical health, whatever it is, right? And of course those are all legitimate things, but sometimes I think we put that, in some senses it's even more difficult, because we have all the time in the world, and it can easily, I've had that experience where I've gotten down. I've had stretches where it's been really, really difficult, where you're spending, I live alone. I talk to people on a daily basis, and whatnot, but you start to get a little, yeah, I mean, depression can set in, and so I've had, it's definitely been challenging in many ways, to keep that focus, and but also again not to let to to get down even more if I'm not being, because that can be like a real, you know, what's the word, like a snowball effect, right? You don't feel good, so you don't do stuff, and then you don't do stuff because you don't feel good, and then you get, you don't beat I try not to beat myself up. Sometimes I just got to give myself a pass, and then other times I'm super on it, and feeling really motivated, and getting myself going, and I think that with a couple of the projects that we're developing now for 2021, I'm excited to go back to California in the new year if COVID permits. I'm still kind of,
Would.
yeah, exactly, knock on wood. I usually like to go sort of in February kind of thing. I'm still marking that on my calendar. I'm being very optimistic about how but I'm also prepared to have to, hang tight and maybe not. It really depends on I'm certainly not expecting any kind of miracles with these vaccines. That's going to take some time. If it all goes exactly like they want it to, it's going to take time, right? So, and nothing ever happens exactly as it's planned. There may be,
Exactly. Yeah.
right, there may be logistical issues, there may be actual practical issues with regards to people having reactions or whatever. Getting it out there to the right people, and then of course there's the whole element of people not even wanting it, and do you force them to take it? And you're getting into a whole realm of interesting challenges. So I was actually hearing that here in Ontario, they may require a vaccine certificate for people if they're going to travel.
Oh wow! I haven't heard that yet, but
Well, it's a
wow.
possibility. I don't know if it's going to actually happen, but they can't force people to do anything, but they can
Exactly. Yeah.
say, you need to have, if you want to, get on an airplane, or if you want to apply, do a certain type of job, let's say working with, maybe if you were working in a long-term health, or like what's it called, like a residence, for
A
elderly,
nursing home. Yeah.
that they would require, that certificate, which is understandable, right?
Right.
And then in other instances, it might infringe on people's personal, whatever, you want to call it. So yeah, who knows how that's gonna play out, but yeah, just hanging in there, and it's getting toward the end of the year, and obviously things slow down in my business. Right now it's I've still been auditioning for some stuff now for the new year, um, and but kind of gearing down, really, preparing for the holiday, whatever that means. I'm not going to be doing anything family wise. I'm going to go see my mother, which is like you know seeing one person versus having a group of people. That's just not something that really makes sense, obviously. So
Yeah.
as tempting as it is, you want to see family, you want to see friends. I think it's worth it's worth waiting, and being able to do it next year, kind of thing. So yeah.
Oh, next year's gonna be big. Go big or go home for my family.
Well, that's it, right? Where do you live? Where
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Well, that's it, right? I mean, we've had years where, it's been big groups. We've had years with smaller groups. It
Right. Right.
really
Right.
depends on the year. So this is a unique year that, will be remembered in a different way. But it will still be able to celebrate. We'll just have to do it separately,
Virtual. Yeah. We're gonna do
and
a video
virtual.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. My mom's not very tech savvy, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do a whole video thing with her, but she's on her own. So, And what I do is if I go visit her, which I've done a few times, I go and get tested. I've been tested 7 times already, just making sure that I'm clear. And for her really, is she's my main concern.
Oh,
And you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like she's in her 80s now. So but I'm optimistic. I feel like, this year was definitely not, my favorite year. But it had some, I guess, we can take from it some positives, and appreciating the things that we do have. I think it's maybe made some of us realize, or I know it's made me realize that, to seize the day, like if there's an opportunity to do something that you want to do it, because you just never know, right? And it's not only about, you never know when they're going to shut down and you can't get on a plane, which is obviously what we've been dealing with, but also you never know what's going to happen with your personal self, with your health, or with someone that
Exactly. Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to go see that friend or call that friend or whatever. Well, call them, because
Yeah.
they might not be around tomorrow, and without being sort of, fatalistic, it's still, it is a fact, and I think it's a good way for us to live, to say, well, without, as long as we're not hurting anyone, if there's something you want to do, you do it, if it makes sense for you. Don't put it off. Don't put things off, however small they may seem, or big, that big thing that, that big trip or whatever it is. I'm sure a lot of, when we're allowed to travel again, it's going to be a real boom of travel,
Exactly. I think
going to
so
be,
too.
right. So, I love to travel. I've always done, I try to do something every year if I can. I was actually in Costa Rica earlier this year. My sister lives there, or
Oh, nice.
she spends a good portion of the year there anyway. And so I was there in January, right before going to California. And I might actually go again this year, in January. It's one of those, like, so in Canada, we have to do a 14-day quarantine. So when I came back in June, from LA, I had to quarantine here, which was okay because it was summer, and I have a backyard and a comfortable space, so it was okay. Not fun. I don't recommend. It's certainly not something you want to be doing if you don't have to. Sorry, that's not them. It's a telemarketer. I keep getting this telemarketer. It's the same number. Actually, I'm going to answer and then hang up on them. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It
Uh,
happens.
so yeah, so I'm considering going to visit her, but I have to like decide whether I want to do the 14-day quarantine, which I'll have to do if I come back.
Right. Exactly.
But it's almost worth it, given the you know deep, dark, cold winter. I mean, you're in Pennsylvania; it gets pretty cold there too, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
after whatever the full month of December, I may be willing to, I mean, if I go away for a week to Costa Rica and I come back here in January, there's a good chance that I'm going to be kind of quarantining anyway.
Right.
You don't go
Yeah.
outside much, right? Other than maybe get some groceries, which I could just have them delivered. So we'll see. Again, it's not just about quarantine; it's also about safety and about even just like limitations in terms of if a border closes, you don't want to get stuck somewhere, or an airline, a lot of airlines will take a reservation and then they cancel it, right? So there's definite considerations there.
Exactly. It's crazy. So hopefully
Yeah.
you'll get to see your sister. So is she an older
Yeah.
sister or a younger
Yeah,
sister?
she's older. She's 2 years older, but we're very close. We don't live in the same city. She lives in Montreal. I live in Toronto. But like I said, she spends probably about half the year in Costa Rica. And I've gone to visit her the last 2 years. So it's a nice opportunity to hang out with her on her kind of home turf, and it's certainly a nice place to be. I enjoy it, especially in January.
I'll
But
bet. Yeah.
yeah, so it's and then I have a brother who lives outside of Montreal, who's also older, the baby of the family, and you know I'm the one actor out of the group, and so yeah, that's kind of my situation right now.
And one thing I like to ask the people I interview is tell me a fun fact about yourself that might surprise your fans.
Wow, a fun fact about myself. Um, I don't know if it's fun, but I founded a Shakespeare theater company.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that's something that I did with my ex-wife actually back in, I guess it was early 2000s, 2002. And, it was something that we created out of nothing. It was one of my first sort of forays into creating my own work, actually. That was the idea, was to, get myself working as an actor at the time. And it just blossomed into something quite big, actually. And I no longer I'm involved, but the company still exists, and it's been there for almost 20 years now. And so it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And so it's a bit of a, I guess, kind of like a baby. It's it has grown up and gone off on its own. It's the type of thing that it's difficult to make a good living running a theater company, at least in my experience. So I had to, and then of course as like the film and television stuff started to get busier and busier for me, it made sense for me to transition away from that, because it was quite time consuming. But so I don't know how fun that fact is, but it is a fact. Something I'm
I
very
like
proud of.
it.
Yeah, something I'm very proud of too. It's always
And
something that when people ask me, uh, you know, how do you do, how do you get involved, how do you get in the business, how do you do it? It's such a difficult thing to even begin to give somebody a roadmap, because I don't think there is a roadmap. Everybody does it. Things happen differently. If you talk to 100 different people, successful or not, how did they get involved, or how did they get into the business? There'll be 100 different way, but I think one thing I always come back to is to just create your own stuff and do what makes you happy, right? And now we're in an age where we have YouTube and TikTok and Snapchat, all these things that people like to have ways of being really creative, right? And some of the things that they put out there is fantastic, right? It's really
yeah, it
entertaining,
really is.
and they do it from the comfort of their own home, right? So
I like it.
right? So we're in an age where it's not like it was 20 years ago, where you'd have to invest in major equipment to put a movie together, and then try to get it out there. Now it's like, pick up your iPhone, shoot something fun. Exactly, you can edit on your computer. Even if you don't have like a Mac, you can, there's editing software, there's tutorials on the internet that can show you how to do it. I mean, it's really all there for people if they want to do it, right? And they can express themselves and not feel like they have to get an agent, or they have to get out there and try to audition for things. Or how do I get involved? And that can come in time. Especially now with COVID, it's like, what more amazing time to be able to just say, okay, all right, I'm just going to create something myself here, wherever here is, with whoever you are with, if not by yourself, and just be creative. And then that's like to me, that's the engine that keeps us going, because it can be a really difficult business, and
Absolutely.
like I said, I've been doing it for 25 years, and this year has definitely been a real struggle, and you got to take the highs and the lows, and at the end of the day, it's all an experience, and it's all good. And I just happy that I'm still here and able to, hopefully entering 2021, like you said, and it's going to be a banner year for all of us.
It is, yes. And on that note, where can we find you on social media so we can start following you?
Well, I have an Instagram which I don't use a lot, but I do plan on getting back into it. It's just Nick Baillie 1. That's the my name of my, or the spelling of my name with the number 1 after. There's another Nick Baillie, obviously, who had access to that prior to me. I'm on Facebook as well, which is just my regular name. I'm not a, it's not hidden or anything like that. It's open for people to be able to that's actually where I'm more active. If I'm working on something, or if I want to promote something, or just personal stuff, family thing, whatever, I'm very pretty open and accessible that way. So those are the two social media things that I have. I have a Twitter, but I don't use it, quite frankly. So was never something that really like connected with me. And but yeah, it would be those two if people wanted to follow and search.
I'll send you a follow. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you for taking the time, and I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year. And thanks again.
Likewise. Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you
Bye.
too. Bye, Sammy.